During the pre-modern era, or what many of us refer to as the medieval period or the Dark Ages, Europe began to experience many changes within its societies as expanding global connections occurred. This series of global contact was primarily influenced by increasing land and oceanic trade networks which connected the regions of Europe and Asia. Despite the many benefits of global trade, Europe began to experience repercussions of foreign contact that would greatly change European civilization. One such infamous consequence was the epidemic of the bubonic plague, or the Black Death, that spread across Europe during the mid-1300s. This disease spread so rapidly that within just a few years it took the lives of over 20 million Europeans. Can you imagine 20 million people? To put that number into perspective, that is the population of Arizona, Nevada, Utah, Idaho, and Colorado combined. So what exactly was this disease? The bubonic plague was a bacterial disease that was carried by black rats and transferred to humans by the fleas that lived on the rats. The black rat, which was known then as the house or ship rat, lived in close proximity to humans, making it almost impossible for people to avoid contact with the disease. When a person became infected with the grave illness, they suffered many painful symptoms. The most common was the development of large painful boils that covered the body and would quickly turn from a red to a black oozing sore. The black sores were a key sign of the plague and was where the term the Black Death got its name. Most plague victims would become sick and die within just 3 to 5 days. Very few survived once taken ill. To make matters worse, the plague was extremely contagious and could be transmitted to other people through the air. Just a cough carrying the germs could infect others. Unfortunately, it was only centuries after the devastating plague struck Europe that scientists began to discover the true origins of the disease. So where was the disease coming from? Early in the 1340s, the plague had struck China and other regions throughout Asia. Europeans had heard rumors of a great pestilence, one that was deadly and spreading along the trade routes of Eurasia, but they were entirely unprepared for what was to come when disease finally hit European borders. It is believed that Europe's first contact with the deadly disease occurred in October of 1347. In this month, 12 trading ships returning from a trade voyage to China arrived at the Sicilian dock in Messina, Italy. To the Sicilians' horror, most of the sailors on the ship were dead, and the few who had survived were gravely ill. Fearful, the Sicilian authorities eventually told the surviving sailors and their death ships to leave the port, but unfortunately, it was too late. Europe had become exposed to the wicked disease, and for 5 long years, its country and people would suffer. How did this affect Europe? As the Black Death spread from region to region, entire villages vanished. Busy city streets became silent. The healthy fled from the sick. Even priests refused to administer to those taken ill. Many people left the city for the countryside, but the plague was found there too. Not only were humans affected, but also farm animals like cows, sheep, and chickens. With losses in livestock and very few healthy hands to harvest crops, a great food shortage occurred across Europe. Also, a mass labor shortage arose during this time, causing workers to demand higher wages from their landlords. Despite the desperate circumstances, landlords refused peasant demands, later leading to a wave of peasant revolts during the late 1300s that would turn the feudal system upside down. The church would also suffer during the years of the Black Death, as many devout Christians prayed to be saved from the evils of the plague, but very few were spared. People began to question their faith, looking for answers outside of their religion. The plague brought not only death to 60% of Europe's population, but also created an atmosphere of religious confusion and political turmoil to the lives of all Europeans living during this dark time.